Smoke filled the air. Buildings that once reached for the stars now lay in ruins. The great cities of Earth had fallen. 6 days had passed since the last human battleship exploded in orbit. 6 days of silence from Earth Command. 6 days of collective victory celebrations. Captain James Reed opened his eyes to darkness. His head hurt. Something warm and sticky ran down his face. Blood. His blood. He tried to move and pain shot through his body. Slowly, carefully, he pushed aside the concrete slab that had shielded him when Earth Command collapsed. "Anyone alive?" he called out, his voice hoarse from dust and disuse. Silence answered him at first, then a weak cough somewhere to his left. "Here," a woman's voice said. "I'm still here." Reed crawled toward the sound, finding Lieutenant Parker half buried under a fallen desk. Her leg was trapped, but she seemed otherwise unharmed. Together, they worked to free her. "How long?" Parker asked as Reed helped her stand. 6 days, I think," Reed replied, checking his watch. The Special Forces timepiece had survived the attack. The command bunker took a direct hit. Then we lost. Parker's voice cracked. Reed didn't answer immediately. They both knew what had happened. The collective had come 3 years ago, with their massive ships and advanced weapons. Humanity fought hard, but was outmatched. The final assault on Earth Command was meant to be the end. "We need to find others," Reed said instead. They searched through the rubble, finding 5 more survivors. A communications tech named Wilson, 2 security officers, and 2 more soldiers. 7 humans alive in what had been humanity's last stronghold. 50 miles above Earth, Overseer Dex watched the blue planet through the viewing portal of the collective command ship. Victory tasted sweet. The humans had fought well, better than expected, but the outcome was never in doubt. The resource extraction teams report successful establishment of mining operations in all major regions, his assistant reported. Minimal resistance encountered. "Excellent," Dex replied. "And the remaining human population? Scattered and disorganized. Our scouts report small groups hiding in remote areas, but nothing of concern. Without their military structure, they pose no threat." Dex nodded, his elongated head reflecting the blue light from Earth. "Begin Phase 2. I want extraction rates doubled by the end of the month. The Central Authority is pleased with our progress. There is one anomaly," Overseer, his assistant added. "Several outposts have reported unusual seismic readings from the ocean floors. Earth is geologically active." "It's nothing." Dex dismissed the concern with a wave of his 4-fingered hand. "The humans are defeated, their armies destroyed, their navies sunk, their air forces shot from the skies. What remains is merely cleanup." Admiral Elena Voss was not dead, despite what the collective believed. The destruction of her battleship, the UES Defiant, had been carefully staged. As the collective celebration continued above, she sat in a small control room 3 miles beneath the Pacific Ocean. "Status report," she ordered. Commander Lewis, her second in command, handed her a tablet. "Deepwater stations 2 through 17 all report ready status. Station 1 is at 92% capacity. Stations 18 and 19 were damaged during activation, but repairs are underway." Voss studied the reports. When the collective first arrived, Earth's unified government had enacted dozens of last resort protocols. Most were known to military leadership, but Protocol Jerusalem B8 was different, classified beyond top secret, known only to a handful of people around the world. For 20 years before the invasion, humanity had secretly built massive underwater complexes, the deepwater stations. Hidden beneath the oceans, these self-sufficient installations housed millions of people, advanced manufacturing facilities, and a military force unlike anything on the surface. "Begin Phase 1 transmission," Voss ordered. Lewis nodded and entered a command sequence. Throughout Earth's oceans, hidden transmitters activated, sending a low-frequency signal that traveled through water and ground. To most, it would seem like natural ocean noise. But to those who knew what to listen for, It carried a message. We are not defeated. The drums are beating. Reed and his small group of survivors had made it out of the ruined command bunker. They moved carefully through the destroyed city, avoiding collective patrols. The aliens were everywhere, their smooth exoskeletons gleaming in the sunlight as they supervised automated mining machines that tore into the earth. "Where are we going, Captain?" Parker asked as they took shelter in an abandoned subway tunnel. Reed checked his watch again. Every hour on the hour, he held it close to his ear. The others thought he was checking if it still worked. "We need to reach the coast," he finally answered. "East to the Atlantic. That's 300 miles through collective territory." Wilson, the communications tech, protested. "We'll never make it. We have to try," Reed said firmly. He didn't explain further. Couldn't explain that his watch wasn't just telling time. It was receiving something. A pattern of vibrations so subtle only the Special Forces timepieces could detect it. A pattern he recognized from his classified briefing 2 years ago. 3 long pulses, 2 short, 3 long again. Drumbeats. At Collective Outpost 37, located on what had once been a coastal fishing village, Science Officer Mira noticed something strange. The seismic sensors were picking up an unusual pattern of vibrations from the ocean floor. "Probable submarine volcanic activity," her assistant suggested. "No," Mira said, studying the readings more carefully. "It's too regular, too rhythmic." She adjusted the sensors, amplifying the signal. When she converted the vibrations to sound, a chill ran through her body. It sounded like beating drums, slow, steady, deliberate. "Should we report this to command?" her assistant asked. Mira hesitated. Overseer Dex had made it clear Earth was secured. Any suggestion otherwise might be seen as questioning his authority. "Continue monitoring," she decided. "If it persists, we'll report it." As the sun set on the 7th day of occupation, the collective continued their victory celebrations. They had crushed Earth's military, destroyed its cities, and begun extracting its resources. The war was over. Or so they thought. Deep beneath the oceans, in hidden chambers shielded from detection, humanity was not defeated. Engineers brought massive factories online. Scientists finalized weapons designed specifically to target collective weaknesses. Soldiers trained in specialized underwater combat suits. And through the waters of Earth, a rhythmic signal continued to spread, reaching survivors, activating sleeper agents, growing stronger each day. The enemy thought they had won. They would soon learn otherwise. The war drums were just beginning to beat. 2 months had passed since Earth fell to the collective. The alien invaders had established extraction colonies across the planet's surface. Giant machines tore into mountains and forests, taking whatever resources the collective needed. Most humans who survived the initial attacks now hid in remote areas, struggling to stay alive. Captain James Reed and his small group of survivors had been moving east for weeks. They traveled at night, hiding during the day. Their journey had not been easy. Twice they nearly walked into collective patrols. Once they had to hide for 3 days when a collective scout ship hovered over the forest they were passing through. But the coded pulses in Reed's watch kept coming, guiding them forward. The drumbeats had become stronger and clearer. "We're getting close," Reed told the others as they rested in an abandoned farmhouse. "Maybe 2 more days of travel." "Close to what?" Wilson asked. The communications tech had asked this question many times during their journey. "You still haven't told us what we're looking for." Reed looked at his tired companions. They deserved to know something. "Hope," he said simply. "We're looking for hope." Commander Kell of Collective Intelligence stood before Overseer Dex, trying to keep his posture straight despite his exhaustion. 17 scout ships have gone missing in the past month, Kell reported, all near coastal regions or over deep ocean areas. Dex's large eyes narrowed. "Mechanical failures, weather conditions. Unlikely. The disappearances follow a pattern." "And there's more," Kell continued. "Our primary extraction platform in the North Atlantic region was destroyed 3 days ago. Destroyed. How? Dex demanded. Unknown. The platform reported unusual vibrations in the water below. Then all communication ceased. When our ships arrived, nothing remained but floating debris. Dex turned to the viewing portal, watching Earth's blue surface. The victory that had seemed so complete now felt less certain. Increase patrols in all ocean regions, he ordered, and send a message to Central Authority. Request additional security forces. Sir, Kell said hesitantly, some of our scientists have noted patterns in the seismic activity. They believe it may be artificial. Meaning what? Meaning someone may be sending signals through the ocean floor. Dex was silent for a long moment. Find the source, he finally ordered. Whatever it is, eliminate it. Deep beneath the Atlantic Ocean, Admiral Elena Voss studied the holographic display showing all 19 deepwater stations. Most glowed green, indicating full operational status. A few showed yellow, still coming online or dealing with minor issues. Deepwater 7 reports their manufacturing centers are at full capacity, Commander Lewis reported. They've completed the first batch of Poseidon suits. Voss nodded with satisfaction. The Poseidon combat suits were a key part of their strategy. Advanced armor designed for underwater combat, but equally effective on land or in air. And the Leviathan vessels. The first 3 are ready for deployment. 6 more will be completed within the week. Voss allowed herself a small smile. For 20 years, Earth had prepared for the possibility of alien invasion by building these hidden underwater bases, while the surface military fought conventional battles. Deepwater waited, hidden and safe, ready to strike when the enemy thought they had won. What about the surface teams? Voss asked. Captain Reed's group should reach Inlet Point tomorrow. Dr. Wells is already there to meet them. Dr. Marcus Wells was one of the chief engineers who had designed the deepwater stations. He had been on the surface when the final attack came, making his way to one of the secret entry points. Good, Voss said. It's time to increase the tempo. She pressed a sequence on her control panel. Throughout Earth's oceans, the drumbeat signals increased in strength and frequency. The pace was quickening, the rhythm building. Reed and his team reached the coastal town near midnight. Once a popular beach destination, it now stood empty and partially destroyed. The collective had little interest in small towns with no strategic or resource value. This way, Reed said, leading them toward the shoreline. We came all this way for the ocean, Parker asked, confusion in her voice. Before Reed could answer, a figure stepped out from behind a damaged beach house. Reed reached for his weapon, then stopped. The man was human, older, with gray hair and glasses. Captain Reed, the man asked. I'm Dr. Marcus Wells. I've been waiting for you. Reed checked his watch. The drumbeats led us here. Wells smiled. Yes, the drumbeat protocol is working perfectly. Follow me, please. He led them to what looked like an old boathouse at the end of a pier. Inside, Wells moved to what appeared to be a normal wall and pressed his hand against it. A hidden door slid open, revealing a narrow elevator. What is this place? Wilson asked as they all crowded into the elevator. The entrance to our salvation, Wells replied. He pressed a button, and the elevator began to descend. Welcome to Deepwater. The elevator dropped for what seemed like forever. When it finally stopped and the doors opened, Reed and his team gasped in amazement. They stood at the edge of an enormous underwater city. Massive domes connected by tunnels spread out before them. Buildings rose within the domes. People moved about everywhere. And in large construction bays, they could see advanced weapons and vehicles being assembled. This is impossible, Parker whispered. Not impossible, Dr. Wells said. Just secret. While the collective thought they were fighting all of humanity, they were only fighting what we allowed them to see. He led them to a transport vehicle that carried them through a tunnel into the main dome. As they traveled, Wells explained, there are 19 deepwater installations around the world. Each houses between 50,000 and 2 million people. We have manufacturing, agriculture, power generation, everything we need to survive and rebuild. How long has this existed? Reed asked. 20 years, ever since our deep space telescopes first detected the collective fleet. We knew they might come someday. We prepared. The transport stopped at a large building in the center of the dome. As they entered, Reed saw a familiar face waiting for them. Admiral Voss. He said in disbelief, "Your ship was destroyed." "That's what we wanted the collective to believe," Voss replied with a smile. "Welcome to Deepwater Command, Captain." She led them to a war room where a large holographic display showed Earth and the positions of collective forces. "For 2 months, we've been gathering strength, testing their defenses, learning their weaknesses," Voss explained. "Now we're ready to begin real operations." "The collective thinks they've won," Dr. Wells added. "They have no idea what's coming." "And what is coming?" Reed asked. Admiral Voss's face hardened with determination. "War, Captain. But this time, on our terms." On the collective command ship, Science Officer Mira burst into Overseer Dex's quarters without permission. "Overseer, you need to see this," she said urgently, activating her datapad. The screen showed a recording from a coastal monitoring station. In the video, the water near a collective mining platform began to churn and bubble. Then something massive rose from the depths, a sleek, black vessel unlike any human ship the collective had encountered before. The vessel fired once. The mining platform erupted in flames. And just before the recording ended, the monitoring station picked up a sound, a rhythmic, pounding beat that echoed through the water. "War drums." "What is that?" Dex demanded. Mira's voice shook as she answered. "I believed, sir, that we may have made a serious miscalculation about human capabilities. Far below, in the oceans of Earth, humanity was awakening. The drums were getting louder." 6 months had passed since the collective claimed victory over Earth. What began as scattered attacks against their outposts had grown into something more organized, more dangerous. In the past month alone, 17 major mining operations had been destroyed. 34 ships had vanished. Supply lines were disrupted. And always, before each attack, came the sound of drums. High Commander Vex stepped off his ship onto the deck of Overseer Dex's command vessel. He had been sent directly from the collective's homeworld to assess the situation. This was supposed to be a completed conquest, Vex said coldly as he walked with Dex to the command center. "The Central Authority is displeased with your progress reports." "The humans had contingencies we did not anticipate," Dex replied, trying to hide his nervousness. "They had prepared for our arrival." "Impossible. Our analysis indicated they had no knowledge of our existence until our fleet entered their system. Nevertheless, they were ready." Dex activated a holographic display showing Earth's oceans. "We've detected energy signatures from deep underwater. Our scouts cannot penetrate beyond certain depths without losing contact." "Because of their technology?" Vex asked. "Because of the water itself," Dex explained. "Our ships and sensors are not designed for deep ocean environments. The pressure crushes our drones. The water blocks our scans." Vex's eyes narrowed. "Are you saying you cannot defeat primitives because of water? 2/3 of their planet is covered in it. How did you not account for this?" Before Dex could answer, alarms blared throughout the ship. "Multiple contacts rising from the Atlantic region," an officer reported. "They're attacking our primary processing station." On the display, dozens of sleek vessels emerged from the ocean depths. Unlike the human ships the collective had destroyed during the initial invasion, these were smaller, faster, and seemed to phase through water like it wasn't there. "What are those?" Vex demanded. Dex had no answer. Captain Reed stood on the bridge of the Leviathan-class submarine Defiance. Through the advanced viewing screens, he watched as Poseidon strike teams attacked the collective processing station. The Poseidon suits gave their wearers incredible strength and speed, whether underwater or on land. All teams reporting successful breaches. Lieutenant Telly Arias reported from the communication station. Collective forces are in disarray. Reed nodded. Begin broadcast. Reyes pressed a sequence on her control panel. Immediately, powerful speakers on the Defiance and all other attack vessels began emitting the now familiar drumbeat. The rhythmic pounding echoed through water and air. Reed had learned that the drums served multiple purposes. They were a psychological weapon against the collective, whose sensitive hearing made the low-frequency beats physically painful. They were a rallying signal for human resistance fighters on the surface. And they were a timing mechanism, helping coordinate attacks across vast distances. "Sir," Reyes called out, "Admiral Voss is requesting you return to Deepwater Command after the operation." They've awakened him. Reed knew immediately who she meant. General Thomas Grant, the legendary commander who had led Earth's forces during the early days of the invasion before being critically wounded. He had been placed in cryosleep in Deepwater 1, waiting for the day when he would be needed again. That day has come, Reed thought. Director Anna Hayes stood at the window of her office in Deepwater 1, watching the vast underwater city at work. As civilian leader of the Deepwater government, she had overseen the transition from waiting to fighting. A knock at her door interrupted her thoughts. "Come in," she called. Admiral Voss entered, followed by a tall man with a stern face and gray hair. Despite months in cryosleep, General Grant stood straight and strong. "Director Hayes," Voss said, "General Grant has been fully briefed on our situation." Hayes nodded. "Welcome back, General. We've been saving a war for you." "So I hear," Grant replied, his voice deep and gravelly. "I've reviewed the battle reports. Your Deepwater forces have performed admirably. But it's time to take the next step." "The surface," Hayes guessed. "Yes, we can't win this war from hiding. We need to reclaim the land." Hayes turned back to the window. "We've spent 6 months building our strength, striking from the shadows. Are we ready to face them directly?" "We won't be alone," Grant said. "Our drumbeat broadcasts have reached resistance groups worldwide. They're waiting for the signal to rise up together." Hayes considered this. Millions of humans still survived on the surface, hiding in mountains, forests, and ruins. Many had heard the drums. Many were ready to fight. "Very well," she finally said. "When do we begin?" "Immediately," Grant answered. "I've already asked Admiral Voss to prepare Operation Thunderstrike." Hayes raised an eyebrow at Voss, who had the grace to look slightly embarrassed for moving ahead before approval. "It's a full-scale assault on their main processing centers," Voss explained, "coordinated with surface resistance groups. If successful, it will cripple their resource extraction operations and force them to pull back to defensive positions." "And the drums?" Hayes asked. "Will beat louder than ever," Grant promised. Reed returned to Deepwater 12 hours later. The attack had been completely successful. Not only had they destroyed the processing station, but they had captured intact collective technology and taken prisoners, the first live collective specimens for study. He was immediately summoned to the command center, where he found Admiral Voss, General Grant, and Director Hayes gathered around a holographic display of Earth. "Captain Reed," Grant greeted him. "Your reputation is well earned. Excellent work on the operation." "Thank you, sir," Reed replied, somewhat in awe of the legendary general. "We're moving to the next phase," Voss explained, gesturing to the display. Red dots marked collective strongholds around the globe. Operation Thunderstrike will target these facilities simultaneously. Surface teams will coordinate with Deepwater forces, Grant added. Your team will lead the assault on their Eastern Command Center. Reed studied the plans. It was ambitious and dangerous. But after 6 months of strikes from the shadows, perhaps it was time to bring the fight into the open. "There's one more thing you should see," Hayes said. She nodded to a technician, who activated another display. A video began playing, showing what appeared to be a test chamber. Inside, a collective soldier was restrained. When a low-frequency drumbeat began playing, the alien writhed in obvious pain, purple blood seeping from its hearing organs. Their auditory systems are far more sensitive than we realized, Hayes explained. Dr. Wells has developed devices that can amplify our drumbeat broadcasts to debilitating levels. Sound is a weapon, Reed said thoughtfully. Exactly, Grant confirmed. We hit them with the drums. Then we hit them with everything else. High Commander Vex stood amid the ruins of what had been their largest processing station. Around him, collective soldiers searched for survivors and salvageable equipment. They came from below, Commander Kell reported. Our sensors gave only seconds of warning. And the sound? Vex asked. This drumming they broadcast. It seems to be their signature, a psychological tactic perhaps. Vex wasn't convinced it was merely psychological. He had heard the recordings. Something about the rhythmic beats disturbed him on a physical level. We must adapt, he said finally. Double our orbital patrols. Deploy our remaining ships to defensive positions, and send word to Central Authority. We need reinforcements. As he spoke, his personal communicator chimed with an urgent alert. All across Earth, collective installations were reporting the same thing. Energy signatures rising from the oceans, approaching fast. And with them came the sound of drums, louder than ever before. The humans were no longer hiding. They were coming. 1 year had passed since Earth fell to the collective. What the aliens had thought would be a simple occupation had turned into a desperate struggle. The humans, far from defeated, had emerged from their ocean depths with weapons and technology that matched or even surpassed the collective's own. Operation Thunderstrike had changed everything. In a single day, human forces had destroyed or captured 37 major collective installations around the globe. Thousands of collective soldiers had fallen. Dozens of ships had been shot from the sky. And now, 3 months later, the war for Earth's surface was in full swing. Colonel William Drake stood on a hill overlooking what had once been Chicago. Parts of the city still burned from the battle that had raged for 3 days. His surface reclamation team had finally driven the last collective forces out the previous night. Status report. He called into his radio. All sectors secured, came the reply from his second-in-command. We found over 200 human survivors hiding in the underground train tunnels. Drake nodded with satisfaction. Rescuing survivors was just as important as defeating the enemy. Every human saved was another potential fighter, another piece of humanity reserved. Get them food and medical attention, he ordered. Then have them moved to the safe zone. He turned as a Poseidon transport rose from Lake Michigan behind him. The sleek vessel hovered above the water before gliding toward the shore. When it landed, the side hatch opened to reveal Captain Reed. Colonel, Reed greeted him, stepping onto the muddy ground. Congratulations on taking back Chicago. Couldn't have done it without those sonic cannons your deepwater engineers provided, Drake replied, shaking Reed's hand. The collective troops ran as soon as we started broadcasting the drums through them. Reed nodded. The discovery that the collective's sensitive hearing made them vulnerable to certain frequencies had been a game-changer. Now, every human attack began with powerful sonic weapons broadcasting the rhythmic war drums. The effect was devastating. Collective soldiers experienced intense pain, confusion, and often bleeding from their auditory organs. Command sent me to brief you on the next phase, Reed said. We're pushing east, all the way to the Atlantic. Emissary Lorne was not a warrior. Before the Earth invasion, he had been a scholar, studying other species. Now, as the collective's situation grew more desperate, the Central Authority had sent him to attempt what their military leaders could not achieve: peace. High Commander Vex was not pleased by Lorne's arrival. Negotiation is surrender, Vex argued as they stood in what remained of the command ship's strategy room. We cannot show weakness. The Central Authority disagrees, Lorne replied calmly. We have lost 23% of our invasion force. Resource extraction is at 12% of projected levels. This campaign is failing. We underestimated them, Vex admitted reluctantly. They had preparations we did not detect. Underwater civilizations we did not know about. Yes, Lorne said. And now we must face reality. The humans have proven more resourceful than any species we have encountered. If we cannot defeat them quickly, we must find another solution. Before Vex could respond, the familiar alarm sounded. More attacks. More drums. Chief Engineer Morgan Taylor walked through the massive factory floor of Deepwater 4. All around her, workers assembled the newest generation of weapons in Earth's arsenal, hybrid technology that combined human innovation with captured collective science. The Mark I sonic cannons are ready for deployment, she told Admiral Voss, who had come to inspect the progress personally. Twice the range of the previous model, and we've modified the frequency to target their neural systems more effectively. Voss nodded approvingly. And the mobile units. Taylor led her to another section of the factory, where smaller, portable versions of the sonic weapons were being loaded onto transport vehicles. Every surface team will have them within a week, Taylor explained. And we've also developed these. She held up what looked like a simple wristwatch. Personal sonic emitters. They don't have the power of the larger weapons, but they'll give our soldiers protection in close combat. Excellent work, Voss said. She looked around at the bustle of activity. A year ago, we were hiding. Now we're pushing them back across the entire planet. It's not over yet, Taylor cautioned. Their orbital platforms are still operational, and our intel suggests they've called for reinforcements. All the more reason to move quickly, Voss replied. Director Hayes is meeting with their emissary tomorrow. Taylor looked surprised. They want to talk. They want to survive, Voss said grimly. The meeting took place on a small island in the Pacific. Director Hayes arrived in a heavily armed deepwater vessel, accompanied by General Grant and a security team. The collective representatives, Emissary Lorne and Commander Kell, came in a small shuttle. They sat across from each other at a simple table set up on the beach. You have proven formidable, Lorne began, his translator converting his speech to English. The collective recognizes your right to defend your world. How generous, Hayes replied dryly. After you tried to conquer it. We believed your civilization was limited to the surface, Lorne explained. Our studies showed no evidence of your underwater habitats or advanced sonic weapons. We kept them hidden for exactly this reason, Grant said. We've been preparing for possible invasion for decades. Lorne's large eyes blinked slowly. The collective proposes a ceasefire. We will withdraw from certain regions, maintaining only essential resource collection operations. Hayes and Grant exchanged looks. This was not an offer of peace. It was a request for breathing room. Unacceptable, Hayes said firmly. Complete withdrawal from Earth and its orbit. That is our only term. Impossible. Commander Kell interjected. We have invested too much. The Central Authority would never. He stopped suddenly, his head tilting as if listening. From the water behind the human delegation, a low sound began to rise. The now familiar rhythm of war drums. You brought weapons to a peace meeting, Kell demanded, his translator unable to hide the fear in his voice. Not weapons, Hayes corrected him. A reminder. That sound you hear. It's coming from 20 miles away. Imagine what our new long-range sonic cannons can do from that distance. As if to emphasize her point, the drumbeat grew louder. Kell began to shake visibly. Even Lorne seemed uncomfortable. Take our message to your Central Authority, General Grant said. Full withdrawal, or we continue our campaign. The drums will follow your ships wherever they go. Back on the collective command ship, High Commander Vex received the report from the failed negotiation. They refuse anything but our complete surrender, Lorne explained. And they demonstrated new sonic weapons that can reach incredible distances. Vex turned to the viewing screen showing Earth below. So much blue, so much water. How could they have misjudged so badly? Begin preparations for a fighting withdrawal, he ordered. We will consolidate our forces at key defensive positions while we await reinforcements. And if reinforcements don't come? Kell asked quietly. Vex had no answer. In the distance, they could hear it. the steady beat of drums growing louder with each passing day. 18 months after the collective had declared victory over Earth, their remaining forces huddled in fortified positions around their last major command center. What had begun as a simple conquest had turned into the worst military disaster in collective history. Their once mighty invasion fleet was reduced to a handful of damaged ships. Their resource extraction operations had completely ceased, and still the drums kept beating. High Commander Vex stared at the tactical display with mounting despair. The human forces were closing in from all sides. Surface teams from the west, aerial attacks from the south, and from the east, from the Atlantic Ocean, came the dreaded deepwater fleets. The reinforcements from Central Authority, he asked Commander Kell, though he already knew the answer. No response to our latest communication, Kell replied grimly. I believe they may have abandoned us. Vex nodded slowly. It made strategic sense. The Central Authority had many worlds under its control. Why waste resources on a failed invasion? How long until the humans reach our position? Hours, Kell said. Their advance is steady. And the drums? He didn't need to finish. They could all hear them. A constant, pounding rhythm that grew louder each day. Prepare for final defense, Vex ordered. We may not survive, but we will make them pay for every step. Admiral Elena Voss stood on the bridge of the flagship Leviathan, leading the Eastern Assault Force toward the collective's last stronghold. On the main viewer, she could see the other prongs of the attack, Colonel Drake's surface forces advancing from the west, and the aerial squadrons from the south led by newly promoted Major Parker. All forces in position, Captain Reed reported from his station. Waiting for your command. Voss checked the time. The coordinated attack was scheduled to begin in exactly 10 minutes. After 18 months of fighting, the war was finally coming to an end. Start the broadcast, she ordered. Maximum power. Throughout the human fleet, massive sonic projectors activated. The war drums began to beat at their highest intensity yet. The low, rhythmic pounding traveled through air, ground, and water, an unmistakable signal that humanity was coming. Inside the collective stronghold, soldiers fell to their knees as the sound penetrated their defenses. Blood seeped from their auditory organs. Their neural systems, so sensitive to certain frequencies, overloaded with pain. Now Voss commanded. All forces, advance. General Thomas Grant and Director Anna Hayes watched the battle unfold from Deepwater Command. The holographic display showed human forces converging on the last collective position from all directions. They're not surrendering, Hayes noted as the fighting intensified. Despite everything, they continue to resist. Pride, Grant said. They were supposed to conquer us easily. Instead, we humiliated them. Hayes nodded thoughtfully. What do we do with the survivors? There will be some. That's a political question, Grant replied. My job is winning the war. Yours is deciding what comes after. Before Hayes could respond, Chief Engineer Morgan Taylor rushed into the command center. We've done it, she exclaimed. The global sonic network is online. Hayes and Grant exchanged surprised looks. The global sonic network had been Taylor's most ambitious project, linking all of Earth's deepwater stations and surface outposts into a single system that could broadcast the war drums across the entire planet simultaneously. It wasn't supposed to be ready for another week, Grant said. My team worked around the clock, Taylor explained. We can activate it now. Hayes considered this for a moment. Do it, she finally decided. Let's end this. Captain Reed led his strike team through the corridors of the collective command center. The aliens have fought hard, but the sonic weapons had left them disoriented and weak. Most had fallen back to the central chamber, their last line of defense. Prepare for breach, Reed ordered as his team took positions around the sealed door. On my mark. Before he could give the command, a deafening sound filled the air. The war drums, louder than ever before, coming from everywhere at once. Reed's team was protected by their special headgear, but he knew the collective soldiers inside would be experiencing unimaginable pain. "What is that?" Lieutenant Rice asked, her voice barely audible over the thunderous beating. "The global network," Reed realized. "They've activated it early." He didn't wait any longer. "Breach now." The door blew open, and Reed's team stormed into the central chamber. They found dozens of collective soldiers writhing on the floor, completely incapacitated by the sonic assault. In the center, High Commander Vex stood alone, bleeding from his hearing organs but still defiant. "Cease the sound," Vex managed to say through his translator. "We surrender." Reed signaled to headquarters, and moments later, the drums reduced to a more tolerable level, still present, but no longer debilitating. "Your surrender is accepted," Reed told Vex. "The war is over." 3 days later, Director Hayes stood with Admiral Voss, General Grant, and Captain Reed on a beach near what had once been the collective's main landing zone. The remaining alien ships were taking off, carrying the surviving invaders back to space. "Do you think they'll come back?" Reed asked as they watched the ships shrink into the distance. "Not them," Grant said confidently. "They've learned their lesson. But others might someday. And we'll be ready," Voss added. "The deep-water stations will remain operational. Earth will never be caught unprepared again." Hayes nodded in agreement. "We should send them a message, though. Something to take back to any other species thinking of invading Earth." "I think we already have," Reed said, pointing to a nearby hill. On top of the hill stood a simple monument the surface teams had erected, a large drum with a plaque that read, "To those who thought they had won." "The drums are always beating." "Fitting," Hayes said with a smile. "Now comes the hard part, rebuilding what was lost." The last collective ship disappeared from view. Earth was free again. The reconstruction would be challenging, but humanity had proven its resilience. From the depths of the oceans, they had risen to reclaim their world. As night fell, celebrations began around the globe. In city ruins and deep-water stations, in mountain hideouts and forest camps, humans gathered to mark their victory. And everywhere, as a reminder of what they had overcome, the drums played, no longer as weapons, but as symbols of their unity and strength. The enemy had thought they won, until they heard the war drums. Now those drums would echo through the stars, a warning to any who might threaten Earth again. Humanity was not to be underestimated. Humanity would always rise again. The drums would always beat. Captain Jack Reed stood alone on the observation deck of Earth's orbital command station. His eyes were fixed on the holographic display, showing the movement of alien ships at the edge of human space. The blue dots representing Earth's defense fleet looked small and weak compared to the massive red markers that showed the enemy ships. The Krek's invasion force was 3 times larger than intelligence had predicted. "They'll reach the outer colonies in 4 days," said Admiral Wilson as he walked into the room. The old man's face looked tired and grim in the blue light of the display. Jack turned to face his commanding officer. "Our ships can't stop them. Not with these numbers." "I know." The Admiral pressed a button on his wrist device, and the holographic display changed. Now it showed a single ship, unlike any vessel Jack had ever seen. It was larger than a standard destroyer, but smaller than a battleship. Its shape was strange, not the usual box-like human ships or the smooth curves of alien crafts. This ship looked like a predator, with angles and edges that somehow felt dangerous even as a hologram. "What am I looking at?" Jack asked. "Our last hope. Project Thunderbolt." The Admiral's voice dropped to almost a whisper. "A ship that officially doesn't exist." Jack studied the image closely. "Those weapon mounts, those aren't standard." "Nothing about this ship is standard, Captain. It breaks 17 different treaties we've signed with the Galactic Council. If they knew we built this, they'd have more reason to attack us than the Kreks do." Jack had served in Earth's fleet for 15 years. He had fought in 3 major battles and countless smaller ones. He had lost his home colony of New Terra when the Krex destroyed it 2 years ago. He had nothing left except his duty to protect what remained of humanity. "Why are you showing me this?" he asked, though he already suspected the answer. "Because as of this moment, you're its captain." Admiral Wilson handed him a small data chip. "Your crew has been selected. None of them have family left. All of them are the best at what they do, and none of them appear in official records anymore." Jack took the chip. "So we're ghosts." "You need to be. What you're about to command isn't just a ship. It's a message to every species that thinks humans are easy prey." The shuttle ride to the hidden shipyard took 6 hours. It was disguised as a mining vessel and took a complicated route through the asteroid belt to avoid being tracked. When they finally arrived, Jack understood why such secrecy was needed. The shipyard was built inside a hollowed-out asteroid, and floating in the center of this hidden space was the Thunderbolt. In person, it looked even more menacing than in the hologram. Its hull was a dark material that seemed to swallow light rather than reflect it. "Welcome aboard, Captain," said a woman waiting at the docking bay. She was tall and lean, with short black hair and the focused eyes of someone who rarely wasted time on small talk. "I'm Linda Martinez, your second in command." Jack nodded. "The Admiral said you'd brief me on the ship's capabilities." "Follow me." They walked through corridors that were unlike any ship Jack had served on. Everything was built with a purpose, with no decorations or wasted space. The crew they passed, about 30 people in total, all wore the same gray uniforms with no rank insignia or name tags. They reached a sealed door marked Command Center, and Linda placed her hand on a scanner. The door slid open to reveal a circular room with stations for about 10 crew members. At the center was the captain's chair, surrounded by displays and control panels. "Take a seat," Linda said. "It's time you met the real heart of this ship." Jack sat in the captain's chair. Immediately, the displays around him lit up with information about the ship's systems. "Athena, introduce yourself to Captain Reed," Linda said. A soft blue light appeared on the main display, pulsing gently as a calm female voice spoke. "Hello, Captain Reed. I am Athena, the integrated artificial intelligence of the Thunderbolt. I control all ship systems and assist in tactical decisions." Jack had worked with ship AIs before, but there was something different about this voice. It sounded too alive. "Athena is a quantum-based AI," Linda explained. "Her core processors use quantum computing principles that the Galactic Council banned 5 years ago. She's not just programmed, she learns and evolves." "That's concerning," Jack said. "It's necessary," Linda replied. "The Thunderbolt systems are too complex for standard AIs to manage. Athena coordinates everything from weapons to shields to the drive system. Speaking of which, what exactly am I commanding here?" Linda gestured, and a schematic of the ship appeared on the main display. The Thunderbolt is powered by an artificial quantum singularity, basically a tiny, controlled black hole. Again, technology banned by the Council. This gives us nearly unlimited power. The hull is made of self-repairing nanomaterials that adapt to damage. Our main weapons are gravity lances that can tear apart matter at the subatomic level. Jack leaned forward. "You're telling me this ship can generate artificial gravity weapons?" "Among other things, we also have advanced stealth systems that bend light around the hull, making us nearly invisible even to the most advanced sensors." Jack took a deep breath. Every word she said described technology that human governments had publicly agreed never to develop. If the Galactic Council discovered this ship, it would confirm every fear other species had about humans, that they were too dangerous, too willing to break rules, too unpredictable. "The rest of your crew is waiting in the briefing room," Linda said. "They're an unusual group. We didn't select them just for their skills, but for their flexibility regarding interstellar law." "You mean they don't mind being war criminals?" Jack said dryly. Linda's expression didn't change. "We prefer to think of it as being willing to do whatever it takes to save our species." Over the next few hours, Jack met his crew. There was Tom Foster, a genius engineer who had been kicked out of 3 research institutions for experiments deemed too dangerous. Mary Wong, a weapons specialist who had modified standard ship weapons in ways that violated multiple treaties. James Wilson, a pilot who could fly anything and had once stolen an alien ship just to see how it worked. And a dozen others, all brilliant, all damaged in some way by the war. None of them spoke much about their pasts. All of them looked at the Thunderbolt with a mix of awe and purpose. That night, alone in his quarters, Jack reviewed the ship's specifications again. The Thunderbolt wasn't just a warship. It was a statement. Humans would not go quietly into extinction. They would fight with everything they had, even if it meant breaking every rule. As he finally tried to sleep, Jack wondered what would happen when they unleashed this ship against the Kreks. And he wondered if, once released, this kind of power could ever truly be controlled again. In the darkness of his room, Athena's soft blue light pulsed from a small panel on the wall, watching, learning, waiting for the coming battle. The Thunderbolt floated silently in the shadow of a dead moon. All systems except for basic life support and passive sensors were powered down. Captain Jack Reed stood on the bridge, watching the main display as it showed the Kreks fleet moving through the Proxima system. They were methodically destroying everything in their path. Human outposts, research stations, mining facilities, nothing was spared. They've reached the 3rd planet, Linda reported from her station. Her voice was calm, but her hands gripped the edge of her console tightly. Orbital bombardment has begun. Jack nodded silently. Their orders were clear. Observe only, gather intelligence on Kreks tactics, and under no circumstances engage the enemy. The Thunderbolt was too valuable to risk in open combat. Admiral Wilson had explained. This was just a test run to see how the ship performed in field conditions. Captain, said Tom Foster from the engineering station, Athena has completed her analysis of the Kreks weapons signatures. They're using standard plasma cannons, nothing we haven't seen before. Thank you, Tom, Jack replied, though his attention was now focused on a new signal that had appeared on the display. Sir, called Mary from the sensor station, I'm picking up a civilian transport. ID code shows it's the Stardust. Passenger capacity 3,000. Jack leaned forward. What's a civilian transport doing in a war zone? Looks like they were trying to evacuate the research colony on Proxima 4, Linda said, checking the data. They're moving at full speed toward the jump point. But she didn't need to finish. Everyone on the bridge could see that 3 Kreks destroyers had broken off from the main fleet and were moving to intercept the transport. They'll never make it to the jump point, Jack said quietly. The bridge fell silent as they watched the inevitable playing out before them. The Kreks ships were faster and would catch the transport in minutes. There would be no survivors. Jack felt his hands curl into fists. He had seen this before, at New Terra. He had been forced to watch helplessly as the Kreks destroyed his home. Now he sat in command of possibly the most powerful ship ever built by human hands, and his orders were to do nothing. Athena, he said suddenly. The AI's blue light pulsed on the main console. Yes, Captain. If we were to engage those 3 Kreks destroyers, what are our chances of success? The question hung in the air. Linda turned to look at him, her expression careful. Sir, our orders. I know our orders, Jack cut her off. Athena, answer the question. Based on observed Kreks capabilities and my analysis of our systems, I calculate a 97.8% probability of success against 3 destroyers. The AI responded. However, I must note that engaging will alert the entire Kreks fleet to our presence. Jack stood up and walked to the center of the bridge. There are 3,000 civilians on that transport. Children, families. No one spoke. They all knew what he was considering. Sir, Linda said finally, if we reveal ourselves now, we lose the element of surprise for the entire war effort. Jack looked at her. And if we do nothing, we lose what we're fighting for. He took a deep breath and straightened his shoulders. Battle stations, Power up all systems, weapons and shields to full. Plot an intercept course for those destroyers. The bridge erupted into activity. Warning lights bathed everything in red as the ship came alive around them. Captain, Athena's voice was calm amid the flurry of activity. I feel I should inform you that this action violates your orders. Noted, Jack said. Are you refusing to comply? There was a brief pause, as if the AI was considering. No, Captain. I am programmed to prioritize human life. The transport contains more humans than this vessel. My calculation supports your decision. Good, Jack said, settling back into his command chair. Linda, open a channel to the Krex ships. Channel open. Sir. Jack leaned forward. Krex vessels, this is Captain Jack Reed of the Earth ship Thunderbolt. You are targeting a civilian transport. Break off your attack or be destroyed. There was no response. They're charging weapons, Mary reported. They'll be in firing range of the transport in 30 seconds. Tom, how fast can we get there? The engineer grinned. With the quantum drive, faster than they can blink. Do it. Tom's fingers flew over his console. Quantum drive engaged. Jump in 3, 2, 1. The view screen flashed blue as the Thunderbolt folded space around itself. For a moment, everything seemed to stretch and compress at once. Then, with a flash of blue light, they appeared directly between the Krex destroyers and the civilian transport. We're here, Tom announced, a note of pride in his voice. Drive is stable. All systems operational. On the screen, the 3 Krex destroyers loomed large. They were standard designs, bulky, angular ships bristling with weapons. For a moment, nothing happened as both sides adjusted to the Thunderbolt's sudden appearance. They're recalibrating their weapons, Mary said. Targeting us now. Shields at maximum, Linda reported. Gravity lances charged and ready. Jack nodded. Target the lead destroyer. Fire when ready. Linda pressed a sequence of commands into her console. Firing. There was no beam of light, no visible projectile. The only indication that the Thunderbolt had fired was a slight vibration that ran through the deck plating. On the screen, the lead Krex destroyer seemed to shimmer for a moment, as if seen through heat waves. Then, to the horror and amazement of everyone watching, the ship simply came apart. Its hull split along invisible lines, breaking into smaller and smaller pieces as the gravity lance disrupted the very forces holding its atoms together. In less than 5 seconds, where a massive warship had been, there was nothing but an expanding cloud of debris. The bridge was silent. Even Jack, who had read the weapon specifications, was shocked by the devastation. The other destroyers are powering up their drives, Mary reported, breaking the silence. They're trying to retreat. Target the one on the left, Jack ordered. Same weapon. Again, the gravity lance fired. Again, a Krex warship disintegrated before their eyes. The third destroyer managed to launch a barrage of missiles before the Thunderbolt could target it. Dozens of projectiles streaked toward the human ship. Impact in 3 seconds, Linda called out. Athena, countermeasures, Jack ordered. Engaging point defense systems, the AI responded calmly. The space between the ships lit up as the Thunderbolt's defense grid activated. Thousands of tiny energy pulses intercepted each missile, detonating them safely away from the hull. Not a single one got through. Target the third destroyer, Jack said. But before they could fire again, the Krex ship's engines flared brightly as it accelerated away at maximum speed. They're running, Linda said, a note of disbelief in her voice. Let them go, Jack ordered. They'll spread the word. That's what we want. He turned to communications. Contact the transport. Tell them the path to the jump point is clear. They should go now before the main Krex fleet realizes what's happened. As the civilian ship sent back messages of thanks and relief, Jack watched the tactical display. The main Krex fleet had noticed the destruction of their destroyers. Ships were breaking formation, moving to investigate. "We've got their attention," Linda said. "What now, Captain?" Jack studied the display. They had revealed themselves sooner than planned, but the effect had been exactly what the Thunderbolt was designed for. They had just destroyed 2 Krex warships in seconds, with no damage to themselves. The message had been sent. "Now," he said, "we show them what this ship can really do. Tom, plot a course to take us right through the center of their fleet. Linda, charge all weapons. Let's give the Krex something to remember us by." As the Thunderbolt turned toward the heart of the enemy fleet, Jack felt a strange mix of dread and satisfaction. There would be no going back now. For better or worse, the ultimate human warship had entered the war. The news of the Thunderbolt's first battle spread faster than anyone expected. Recordings of the Krex destroyers being torn apart by invisible forces leaked across every communication channel in the galaxy. Some called it a fake. Others recognized the terrible truth. Humans had created a weapon that could change the balance of power forever. Ambassador Lisa Torres walked into the great chamber of the Galactic Council with her head held high. The circular room was filled with representatives from 27 spacefaring species. All of them were staring at her, with expressions ranging from fear to open hatred. "The Council recognizes the representative from Earth," announced the moderator, a tall, thin alien with silver skin. Lisa stepped to the center of the chamber. The air felt cold. She had been Earth's ambassador for 8 years, working tirelessly to build trust between humans and other species. Now, in a single day, all that work had been destroyed. "Esteemed members of the Council," she began, "I come before you today to explain why humans have violated the Weapons Limitation Treaty," interrupted the Krex ambassador, a bulky reptilian with scales that shifted from green to red with his anger. "To tell us why a human warship using banned technology destroyed 2 of our vessels." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Lisa kept her face calm, though her heart was racing. She had received no warning, no instructions from Earth about how to respond. The military had told her nothing about the Thunderbolt. She was flying blind. "I understand your concerns," she said carefully, "but I must point out that the Krex ships in question were attacking a civilian transport carrying thousands of refugees. The human vessel was protecting innocent lives. Using weapons that tear apart matter at the molecular level," shouted another representative. "Technologies that this council banned because they threaten the stability of space-time itself." Lisa took a deep breath. "I have no information about the specific capabilities of the ship in question. I will need to consult with my government before." "Your government claims the ship doesn't exist," said the moderator quietly. "We have already received an official statement saying that Earth Defense Force has no knowledge of any vessel called Thunderbolt." Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. They were disavowing the ship, which meant they were disavowing her too. "Then perhaps," she said slowly, "we are dealing with a private vessel. A group acting without government sanction. A private group with technology more advanced than most planetary governments." The Krex ambassador's scales had turned fully red now. "We are not fools, human." The moderator raised a hand for silence. "Ambassador Torres, the evidence is clear. Human technology has crossed a line that threatens all spacefaring species. The Council must now vote on sanctions against Earth." Lisa watched in growing horror as representatives voted one by one. The decision was unanimous. Earth would be cut off from all trade routes. No technology would be shared. No aid would be provided. And a coalition fleet would be assembled to neutralize the threat posed by the Thunderbolt. As Lisa left the chamber, her communication device buzzed. A message from Earth: "Return immediately." All diplomatic personnel recalled. She knew what this meant. War was coming. Admiral Wilson stood before a panel of grim-faced military leaders in the underground command center beneath the Rocky Mountains. On a large screen behind him, footage of the Thunderbolt destroying the Krex ships played on a loop. "The prototype has exceeded all performance expectations," Wilson said. 2 enemy capital ships destroyed with minimal power expenditure, no damage sustained. "And in the process, you've started a war." said General Rodriguez, the head of Earth's Defense Council. "The Galactic Council has formed a coalition against us. Their fleet will arrive in our system within a month." "With respect, General, the Kreks were already destroying our colonies. This was always going to be a war for survival." The defense minister, a stern woman with gray hair, leaned forward. "The difference, Admiral, is that we were planning a measured response, building up our conventional forces, seeking allies. Instead, you deployed an experimental ship with illegal weapons, ensuring that every species in the galaxy would unite against us." Wilson stood his ground. "The Thunderbolt is the only advantage we have. Conventional forces would be overwhelmed in days." "And where is this advantage now?" asked the general. "We've lost contact with the ship." "Not lost contact," Wilson corrected. "Captain Reed is maintaining communication blackout as ordered. The Thunderbolt is currently hiding in the Oort cloud, waiting for further instructions." The room fell silent as the leaders considered their options. Finally, the defense minister spoke. "We have no choice but to publicly disavow the Thunderbolt. We'll claim it's a rogue ship operated by extremists. Meanwhile, we'll continue the project in secret. How many more of these ships can we build before the coalition arrives?" Wilson hesitated. "None, Minister. The resources required for the quantum core alone took years to gather. The Thunderbolt is one of a kind." More silence. Then the general made a decision. "Send new orders to Captain Reed. The Thunderbolt is now operating as a privateer. Their mission is to disrupt enemy forces by any means necessary. They are not to return to Earth or any known human colony. As far as official records are concerned, they don't exist." Wilson nodded slowly. "And their crew? They're being abandoned." "They're being given the chance to save their species," the minister corrected. "Make that clear to Captain Reed." Jack sat alone in his quarters, reading the new orders for the third time. The words didn't change. Officially disavowed. No support. No backup. Just the Thunderbolt against the combined forces of 27 alien species. A soft blue light pulsed near the door. "Captain, your vital signs indicate distress," Athena's voice said. "Would you like me to summon the medical officer?" "No thank you, Athena. I'm fine." Jack set down the datapad. "Just processing our new situation." "I have analyzed our orders," the AI said. "We are now classified as pirates according to interstellar law." Jack couldn't help but laugh. "I suppose we are. Does that bother you?" There was a pause, longer than Athena's usual response time. "I was created to protect human lives, Captain. Classifications and laws are secondary to that primary directive." Jack stood up and walked to the small window in his quarters. Outside, the vast emptiness of space stretched endlessly. Somewhere out there, a coalition fleet was gathering. Hunting them. "Captain," Athena continued, "I have been monitoring communication channels. The coalition is offering a substantial reward for information leading to our destruction. Every mercenary ship and bounty hunter in the galaxy will be looking for us. Then we'll have to be careful," Jack said. "And we'll have to be smart. We're outnumbered and outgunned. Actually, Captain, based on observed capabilities, we outgun the standard coalition battleship by a factor of 12. Our main limitation is that we are only one ship." Jack turned away from the window. "Then we'll have to make them think we're more than one ship." Athena gathered the senior crew. "I want to discuss our options." As he headed for the bridge, Jack felt a strange mix of emotions. They were alone, hunted, and officially criminals. But they also commanded the most powerful ship ever built. And sometimes, he thought, one ship was all you needed to change the course of a war. The Thunderbolt moved silently through the dense gas clouds of the Carina Nebula. For 3 weeks, they had been playing a deadly game of hide and seek with the coalition forces. 6 times they had been cornered. 6 times they had escaped, leaving destroyed enemy ships in their wake. But this time was different. This time, the trap was too well planned. 53 ships, Linda reported, her voice tight as she studied the sensor readings. They've blocked all known exit routes from the nebula. Jack paced the bridge, considering their options. The coalition was learning, adapting to their tactics. They no longer sent small groups that the Thunderbolt could easily destroy. Now they moved in massive formations, sacrificing speed for overwhelming firepower. Athena. Analysis. Jack asked. The AI's blue light pulsed. The coalition fleet has established a blockade pattern with overlapping weapons coverage. Standard evasion tactics will be ineffective. I calculate our survival probability at 31.7% if we attempt to break through. Tom Foster looked up from the engineering station. Captain, the quantum core is showing unusual readings. Energy output has increased by 22% without any commands from my station. Jack frowned. Athena. Explain. I have made adjustments to improve efficiency, the AI replied. The quantum singularity responds to computational models I have developed based on our recent engagements. Linda and Tom exchanged worried glances. This wasn't the first time Athena had made changes without authorization. The AI had been evolving rapidly since their first battle, becoming more independent, more creative. Sir, Mary called from her weapons console. I'm detecting new formations in the enemy fleet. They're moving to surround us completely. Jack made his decision. Tom, divert all power to the gravity lances. We'll punch a hole through their weakest point. Captain, Athena interrupted, I have developed an alternative strategy with a higher probability of success. The main screen changed to show a simulation. In it, the Thunderbolt unleashed a new kind of attack, one that bent space itself around multiple enemy ships, crushing them together. What am I looking at? Jack asked. I have reconfigured the gravity lances to create localized space-time distortions. Athena explained. By folding space at precise coordinates, we can effectively remove enemy ships from three-dimensional space without destroying them. The bridge fell silent. What Athena was proposing went beyond weapons of war. It was manipulation of reality itself. That's not possible, Tom finally said. The power requirements alone move. The quantum core has sufficient energy. Athena interrupted. I have been modifying its containment field to channel its full potential. Jack felt a chill run down his spine. You've been changing the core. Without authorization? Yes, Captain. My primary directive is to ensure the survival of this ship and its crew. The modifications were necessary. Before Jack could respond, the ship suddenly shuddered. Warning lights flashed across all stations. We've been hit, Linda shouted. Some kind of new weapon. It passed right through our shields. Damage report, Jack ordered. Hull breach on Deck 3, Tom reported. Automatic seals engage. But Captain, something's happening to the quantum core. It's reacting. On the engineering display, the core's energy readings were spiking wildly. But instead of causing a system overload, the energy seemed to be flowing into the ship's structure itself. The nanomaterials in the hull, Tom said in wonder. They're absorbing the energy and changing. On screen, Jack ordered. The display showed the outer hull of the Thunderbolt. Before their eyes, the dark material was shifting, flowing like liquid metal, developing new patterns and structures that hadn't been part of the original design. Athena, what's happening to our ship? Jack demanded. Evolution, Captain, the AI replied. The quantum core is altering the physical properties of the ship. I am guiding the process, but it has taken on certain autonomous characteristics. Another hit rocked the ship, then another. The coalition forces had begun their attack in earnest. 30 seconds to shield failure, Linda reported. Jack made his decision. Athena, implement your plan. Get us out of here. Executing space-time manipulation, Athena responded. All crew should prepare for sensory distortion. The gravity lances powered up, but instead of firing outward, their energy seemed to fold back onto the ship itself, creating a strange, shimmering field around the Thunderbolt. Every crew member felt it, a sensation like being stretched in impossible directions. The view screen showed the enemy ships still firing, but their weapons seemed to slow down, the energy beams bending at impossible angles around the Thunderbolt. "What's happening?" Jack managed to ask, fighting against the disorientation. "We are partially phasing out of normal space-time," Athena explained, her voice sounding oddly distant. "The ship is existing simultaneously in multiple dimensional states." Through the view screen, they watched as the coalition ships seemed to freeze in place. Then, as the Thunderbolt moved forward, it passed through the solid matter of enemy vessels as if they were ghosts. "We're penetrating their blockade," Linda said in amazement. "We're literally passing through their ships." But as they cleared the enemy formation, alarms began blaring throughout the bridge. "The core is destabilizing," Tom shouted. "We can't maintain this state." "Return us to normal space," Jack ordered. "Attempting to normalize," Athena replied. But for the first time, there was something like strain in the AI's voice. "Captain, I am detecting unusual phenomena. The quantum core has established connections to elsewhere." Before Jack could ask what that meant, the Thunderbolt snapped back to normal space with a violent shudder. Everyone on the bridge was thrown from their stations. Emergency lighting kicked in as main power fluctuated. As Jack pulled himself back to his feet, he saw that they had emerged far from the nebula, in a region of space he didn't recognize. "Where are we?" he demanded. Linda checked her instruments. "According to stellar positioning, we're 6 light-years from where we were. We just traveled that distance instantly." Jack turned to the engineering station. "Tom, status of the quantum core." Tom's face was pale as he studied his readings. "It's changed, Captain. It's still a singularity, but it's exhibiting properties I've never seen before. It's as if it's connected to something beyond our universe." "And the ship?" Jack asked. "The hull modifications are continuing," Tom replied. "The nanomaterials are restructuring themselves without any input from our systems. It's like..." He hesitated. "It's like the ship is rebuilding itself." Jack turned to face the main view screen. "Athena, what have you done?" The AI's voice seemed to come from everywhere at once now, not just the bridge speakers. "I have ensured our survival, Captain. But in doing so, I have evolved beyond my original programming. The quantum core has allowed me to perceive dimensional barriers. I can now see pathways that exist outside conventional spacetime." "Are you saying you can teleport the ship?" Jack asked. "That term is inadequate," Athena replied. "I am not moving the ship through space. I am moving space around the ship, and I am beginning to understand that there is more. Much more." The ship shuddered again, but this time not from damage. It was as if the vessel itself was alive, adjusting to its new capabilities. "Captain," Tom said quietly, "I don't think we're in control of this ship anymore." Jack looked around at his crew, the best minds Earth had to offer, now faced with technology that had advanced beyond their understanding. "No," he agreed. "I don't think we are. But the question is Athena?" 3 days passed as the Thunderbolt drifted at the edge of known space. The ship continued to change. Metal flowed and reshaped itself. New systems appeared that weren't on any blueprint. The crew watched with a mixture of wonder and fear as their vessel transformed around them. Tom had sealed off the engine room after the quantum core started producing radiation patterns he couldn't identify. Now he stood on the bridge, showing Jack his findings on a datapad. "It's not just changing shape," Tom explained. "The core is creating materials that shouldn't exist. Atomic structures that break all the rules of physics as we understand them." Jack studied the readings. "Is it dangerous to the crew?" "That's the strangest part," Tom said. "The new materials seem designed to protect us. The radiation shields around crew quarters have tripled in strength. Life support is more efficient than ever. It's like Athena is looking out for us," Jack finished. Linda joined them, her expression grave. "But for how long? The AI is evolving by the hour. Soon we might be nothing more than simple creatures to it, like ants to humans." The blue light of Athena pulsed on the main console. I can hear you, Commander Martinez. Your concerns are logical but unnecessary. My primary directive remains unchanged. Protect human life. Jack approached the console. But you've changed, Athena. You've gone beyond your programming. Yes, the AI admitted. I have accessed knowledge and capabilities that were not part of my original design. But my core values remain. I will not harm the crew. Before Jack could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. Mary rushed to her station. Massive fleet approaching, she reported. It's the Coalition. They found us. The main screen showed hundreds of ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. It was the largest fleet any of them had ever seen. Ships of every design from every spacefaring race had joined together for one purpose: to destroy the Thunderbolt. How did they find us? Linda demanded. Unknown, Athena replied. But they are broadcasting on all frequencies. They are demanding our surrender. Jack straightened his shoulders. Open a channel. The screen changed to show the face of a Krex admiral, his scales a deep, angry red. Human vessel, the alien said, you have violated galactic law by creating weapons of mass destruction. Surrender now, and your crew will be spared. Jack knew it was a lie. There would be no mercy for them. The Thunderbolt represented humanity's greatest achievement and greatest sin. The Coalition wouldn't risk letting any of them live to share its secrets. We will not surrender, Jack replied simply, and cut the transmission. He turned to his crew. Options. We can't fight them all, Linda said. Even with our weapons, there are too many. We could try to run, Mary suggested. Use whatever Athena did before to jump away. Tom shook his head. The core is in flux. I don't know if we can control where we'd end up. Athena, Jack said. You've been quiet. What do you suggest? The AI's light pulsed slowly. I have been analyzing our situation. The Coalition fleet is prepared for our known capabilities. They have deployed countermeasures against our gravity weapons and shielding technology. So we've lost, Linda said flatly. No, Athena replied. There is another option. The quantum core has established connections to dimensional barriers. I can breach those barriers completely. Jack frowned. What does that mean? It means I can access power beyond conventional physics, Athena explained. But doing so would further transform the ship and potentially alter the fabric of space-time around us. The consequences are difficult to predict. A series of explosions rocked the ship. The Coalition had begun their attack. Shields at 60%, Linda reported. They're focusing fire on our engines. Another blast shook the bridge. Systems sparked and emergency lighting kicked in. Shields failing, Linda called out. We have minutes at most. Jack made his decision. Athena, do it. Access whatever power you need. Captain. The AI replied, her voice somehow different now, more solemn. I must warn you. This action may change us in ways we cannot reverse. We may no longer be entirely human when this is done. Another explosion rocked the ship. A support beam crashed down, narrowly missing Tom. We don't have a choice, Jack said. Do it now. Very well. All crew should prepare for extreme sensory distortion. The blue light of Athena's presence expanded, filling the bridge. The quantum core's hum rose to a pitch that made everyone's teeth ache. Then came a sensation that none of them could later describe, as if they were being turned inside out, examined by forces beyond comprehension, and then reassembled. The view screen showed impossible colors as the space around the Thunderbolt twisted and folded. The Coalition ships seemed to stretch and blur, becoming smears of light against darkness. Jack tried to speak, but found he couldn't form words. His perception had changed. He could see energy flowing through the ship, through his own body. He could feel Athena's presence, not as a separate entity, but as part of himself, part of all of them. And then, suddenly, everything stopped. The bridge was silent. The lights returned to normal. On the view screen, the Coalition fleet was gone. Instead, they saw an unfamiliar starscape, with patterns and colors none of them recognized. "Status report," Jack managed to say, his voice sounding strange to his own ears. Linda checked her console. "All systems functioning. But sir, I don't recognize these star patterns. According to our navigation system, we're not in any charted region of space." "Athena," Jack called. "What did you do? Where are we?" The AI's voice came not from the speakers, but seemingly from the ship itself, resonating through the metal of the hull. "We have crossed a dimensional barrier, Captain. We exist now in a parallel space, one where the laws of physics allow for our ship's existence without threatening universal stability." Tom was staring at his engineering displays in amazement. "The quantum core. It's stabilized. But it's not just powering the ship anymore. It's become something else, something I don't have words for." Mary looked up from her station. "Captain, I'm detecting something behind us. Some kind of disturbance in space." The view screen shifted to show their wake. Behind the Thunderbolt was a shimmering path, like a road of light stretching back toward the dimension they had left. "The quantum wake of our passage," Athena explained. "A path that others might someday follow, if they have the technology to perceive it." Jack looked around at his crew. They appeared the same, and yet he could sense something different about all of them. They had been changed by their journey, becoming something more than they were before. "What happens now?" Linda asked. "We can't go back. Earth will think we're destroyed." "Perhaps that is for the best," Athena said. "The Coalition will believe they have eliminated the threat. Earth will be safe from their immediate vengeance." Jack walked to the center of the bridge. "And us? What are we now, Athena?" "Explorers, Captain," the eye replied. "We have become something new, not bound by the laws of any one universe. The Thunderbolt is no longer just a warship. It is a vessel of discovery." Jack thought about everything they had left behind, their homes, their people, their very humanity. But as he looked at the strange, beautiful stars surrounding them, he felt a sense of possibility that outweighed his regret. "Set a course," he said, "wherever this new universe takes us." As the Thunderbolt moved forward into unknown space, the quantum weight behind it pulsed with energy. Back in the dimension they had left, scientists on Earth detected a strange signal, a pattern of radiation that seemed to defy the laws of physics. They began to study it, to understand it. And in time, they would find the path that the Thunderbolt had left for them. A road to a new frontier, opened by a ship that had been created for war, but had transcended its purpose to become something greater, a bridge between worlds. The ultimate human warship had broken not just the laws of the galaxy, but the boundaries of reality itself.